This lesson video is about UIL headline writing. You can use this to help you with the UIL headline writing competition or just as a review of the rules of headline writing. We're going to start by taking a look at the prompt because this is a very unique and quirky competition because it's very, very old school. The reason it's weird is because headline writing rules go back to the days before digital printing. Back then, all the writing and type was actually these little metal letters, and you would actually have these large metal plates with rows on them, and the letters were backwards like this, and you would slide in. There's actually a job for typesetters, and they would slide in the letters for the articles as well as for the headlines. Then ink would be rolled over all of that, and like a giant stamp, it was stamped onto the papers. Now this meant that there were some set sizes and ways things had to be. In order to make everything fit your images and everything like that, you really couldn't make a bunch of little adjustments like we do with Adobe InDesign or some of those programs. You couldn't just go make these new metal plates and new metal pictures. It was quite a process. So there was usually a set amount of space for the headline and a set size. And maybe it was a 2-line headline and there was this much space. So that is what this competition is based on. So it's a little archaic because we don't necessarily do things exactly that way anymore. But this competition is a lot of fun and it has a lot of history. In this way, it's a lot like some of our social media, like Twitter, where there's a character count that you have to adhere to. Originally, Twitter had a 140 character count. That includes spaces, punctuation, everything like that. They doubled it to 280 characters, and you have that limit to work with. So thinking of it that way is helpful to a lot of students. So let's get a look at this prompt here. And what we're going to do is zoom out a little bit to get a view of the whole page, and you can see, just like the other UIL competitions, there's some information that you need to know and the rules for the competition in the left column here. So it tells you you're a copy editor for the Leaguetown Press, a student newspaper of Leaguetown High School. It tells you that you've got to write headlines for the 6 stories they give you, and that everything you do, even spaces and punctuations and letters, they all count as one character. It also tells you some specific rules like capitalize the first letter of the first word of each headline. It tells you you can use what we call up style, capitalizing the first letter of every word in the headline, or down style, capitalizing the first letter of the first word and the first letter of proper nouns only thereafter. So you can do that either way. It says, remember, the main headlines belong on the top line and secondary headlines belong under the main headline, and you have 45 minutes for that competition. As always in these UIL competitions, you don't write your name or the name of your school on the paper. They're going to give you a number in that competition and have you put that on there. So, along with those rules, you will see there's the 6 stories. Story number 1, story number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then you also have this very strange page right here with the numbers and dashes where you actually write the headlines. And we'll look at that more in a second here. So each one of these has a very short story, very short article, and then it tells you that you're going to have to write a 2-line headline between 20 and 26 characters for each of those 2 lines. Okay, so let's look down at the answer document. So it's got a couple more instructions for you on this page, but as you can see, headline number 1, there's 2 lines, and it told us that we need to be between 20 and 26 characters on each line. Okay, so between 20 and 26. That means if you even have a period that goes on to 27, a question mark, a comma that goes on to 27, this headline no longer counts. So one of the most important things is knowing that your lines have to end in that range. If you end your first line at 19 and it says 20 to 26, that headline does not count. Some students find it helpful when you get your counts to first go through and like put dots over for each headline. So headline number 1 was 20 to 26, whatever headline 2 is, put those dots so you know that you end on or in that range for each line, so you don't get that question disqualified. I'm going to make sure I note this right here because I said this earlier and I don't want to be confusing about it. You do not end your headline in a period. So if you get to right here and you're like, oh, I can get to 20 if I add a period, that is not allowed. So make sure that your headline actually goes all the way into that range and that you do not put a period at the end of your headline. So that you understand what these headlines look like, let's go back up to this prompt here and let's look at an example. Let's read the story first. So we know we're going to write a 2-line headline counting 20 to 26. After conferring with the Parent-Teacher Association and the superintendent, Principal Brett Bloom said the school will no longer use any hygienic product that contains triclosan. The chemical is found in 75% of antibacterial soaps, like the soaps used in the school restrooms. Quote, the Food and Drug Administration concluded that there is no evidence proving that antibacterial soaps are any more effective than non-antibacterial soap and water, Bloom said. The triclosan can disrupt hormones critical for reproduction and development and contribute to the development of resistant bacteria. Bloom said the switch to regular soap will be complete by the end of the month. Junior Oriana Vitrup said she was unaware of the possible dangers of the chemical. I'm glad Principal Bloom is on top of this, she said. Who would have thought washing your hands wouldn't be good for your body? So let's take a look now down at the actual sample answer. So if you look here on the sample answers, you'll see it gives you the count here too. So it did not go past 26 and it reached 20 on this one. So this headline's good to go. Let's see how they handled it. School bans soap products containing triclosan. Looks like it hits all the information that's important. If someone read that headline, they would understand at least the general idea of what is happening, and they can read more in that story to find out more. School bans soap products containing triclosan. In the next video, we're going to look more in depth at what these headline answers look like and go over some of what you should do and what you shouldn't do in your UIL headline writing responses.